I first met in person with Mary E. in the summer of 2007. I had arranged with her husband of 15 years, Terrence, to see her for an interview. Mary had initially agreed since I was not a newsman, but rather an amateur writer gathering information for a few early college assignments, and if all went according to plan, some pieces of fiction. We scheduled the interview for a particular weekend, when I was in Chicago on unrelated business. But at the last moment, Mary changed her mind and locked herself in the couple's bedroom, refusing to meet with me. For half an hour, I sat with Terrence as we camped outside the bedroom door and listened. I listening and taking notes, while he attempted fruitlessly to calm his wife. The things Mary said made little sense, but fit with the pattern I was expecting. Though I couldn't see her, I could tell from her voice that she was crying, and more often than not, her objections to speaking with me centered around an incoherent diatribe on her dreams or nightmares. Terrence apologized profusely when he ceased the exercise, and I did my best to take it in stride. Recall that I wasn't a reporter in search of a story, but merely a curious young man in search of information. Besides, I thought at the time, I could perhaps find another similar case if I put my mind and resources to it. Mary E. was the sysup of a small Chicago-based bulletin board system in 1992, when she first encountered Smile.JPEG, and her life changed forever. She and Terrence had been married for only 5 months. Mary was one of an estimated 400 people who saw the image when it was posted as a hyperlink on the BBS, though she's the only one who has spoken openly about the experience. The rest have remained anonymous. Or perhaps dead. In 2005, when I was only in 10th grade, Smile.JPEG was first brought to my attention by my growing interest in web-based phenomena. Mary was the most often cited victim of what is sometimes referred to as Smile.Dog, a being Smile.JPEG is reputed to display. What caught my interest, other than the obvious macabre elements of the cyber legend and my proclivity towards such things, was the sheer lack of information, usually to the point that people don't believe it even exists other than as a rumor or a hoax. It's unique because though the entire phenomena centers on a picture file, that file is nowhere to be found on the internet. Certainly, many photo-manipulated simulacra litter the web, showing up with the most frequency on sites such as the image board 4chan, particularly the X-Focus Paranormal subboard. It is suspected these are fakes because they don't have the effect the true Smile.JPEG is believed to have, namely sudden onset temporal lobe epilepsy and acute anxiety. This purported reaction in the viewer is one of the reasons the phantom-like Smile.JPEG is regarded with such disdain, since it's patently absurd, though, depending on whom you ask, the reluctance to acknowledge Smile.JPEG's existence might be just as much out of fear as it is out of disbelief. Neither Smile.JPEG nor Smile.Dog is mentioned anywhere on Wikipedia, though the website features articles on such other, perhaps more scandalous shock sites as Hello.JPEG or Two Girls, One Cup. Any attempt to create a page pertaining to Smile.JPEG is summarily deleted by any of the encyclopedia's many admins. Encounters with Smile.JPEG are the stuff of internet legend. Mary E.'s story is not unique. There are unverified rumors of Smile.JPEG showing up in the early days of Usenet, and even one persistent tale that in 2002 a hacker flooded the forums of the humor and satire website Something Awful with a deluge of Smile.Dog pictures, rendering almost half of the forum's users epileptic. It is also said that in the mid to late 90s, that the Smile.JPEG circulated on Usenet as an attachment of a chain email with the subject line, Smile. God loves you. Yet despite the huge exposure these stunts would generate, there are very few people who admit to having experienced any of them, and no trace of the file or any link has ever been discovered. Those who claim to have seen Smile.JPEG often weakly joke that they were far too busy to save a copy of the picture to their hard drive. However, all alleged victims offer the same description of the photo. A dog-like creature, usually described as appearing similar to a Siberian husky, illuminated by the flash of the camera, sits in a dim room the only background detail that's visible being a human hand extending from the darkness near the left side of the frame. The hand is empty, but is usually described as beckoning. Of course, most attention is given to the dog, or the dog-like creature, as some victims are more certain than others about what they claim to have seen. The muzzle of the beast is reputedly split into a wide grin, revealing 2 rows of very white, very straight, very sharp, very human-looking teeth. This is, of course, not a description given immediately after viewing the picture, but rather a recollection of the victims who claim to have seen the picture endlessly repeated in their mind's eye during the times that they're in reality having epileptic fits. These fits are reported to continue indeterminably, often while the victims sleep, resulting in very vivid and disturbing nightmares. These may be treated with medication, though in some cases it's more effective than others. Mary E., I assumed, was not on effective medication. That was why after my visit to her apartment in 2007, I sent out feelers to several folklore and urban legend-oriented news groups, websites, and mailing lists, hoping to find the name of a support victim of Smile.jpg who felt more interested in talking about his experiences. For a time, nothing happened, and at length, I forgot completely about my pursuits. And since I had begun my freshman year of college, I was kind of busy. Mary contacted me via email, however, near the beginning of March 2008. It reads, "Dear Mr. L, I'm incredibly sorry about my behavior last summer when you came to interview me. I hope you understand that it was no fault of yours, but rather my own problems that led me to act out as I did. I realized I could have handled the situation much more decorously. However, I hope you'll forgive me. At the time, I was afraid. You see, for 15 years, I had been haunted by Smile.jpg. Smile.dog comes to me in my sleep every night. I know that sounds silly, but it's true. There is an ineffable quality about my dreams. My nightmares make them completely unlike any real dreams I've ever had. I don't move, and I don't speak. I simply look ahead, and the only thing ahead of me is the scene from that horrible picture. I see the beckoning hand, and I see Smile.dog. It talks to me. It's not a dog, of course, though I'm not quite sure what it really is. It tells me that it will leave me alone if only I do as it asks. All I must do is spread the word. That's how it phrases its demands. And I know exactly what it means. It wants me to show it to someone else. And I could. The week after my incident, I received in the mail a manila envelope with no return address. Inside was only a 3.5-inch floppy diskette. Without having to check, I knew precisely what was on it. I thought for a long time about my options. I could show it to a stranger, a coworker. I could even show it to Terrence, as much as that idea disgusts me. And what would happen then? Well, if Smile.dog kept its word, I could sleep. Yet if it lied, what would I do? And who is to say something worse would not come from me if I did as the creature asked? So I did nothing for 15 years. Though I kept the diskette hidden amongst my things every night, for 15 years Smile.dog had come to me in my sleep and demanded that I spread the word. For 15 years, I've stood strong. Though there must have been hard times. Many of my fellow victims on the BBS board where I first encountered Smile.jpg had stopped posting. I heard some of them committed suicide. Others remained completely silent, simply disappearing off the face of the web. They're the ones I worry about the most. I sincerely hope that you'll forgive me, Mr. L. But last summer when you contacted me and my husband about an interview, I was near the breaking point. I decided I was going to give you the floppy diskette. I didn't care if Smile.dog was lying or not. I wanted it to end. You were a stranger. Someone I had no connection with, and I thought I wouldn't feel sorrow when you took the disc as part of your research and sealed your fate. Before you arrived, I realized what I was doing. I was plotting to ruin your life. I couldn't stand the thought, and in fact, I still can't. I'm ashamed, Mr. L, and hope that this warning will dissuade you from further investigation of Smile.jpg. You may in time encounter someone who is, if not weaker than I, then wholly more depraved, and someone who will not hesitate to follow Smile.dog's orders. Stop while you're still whole. Sincerely, Mary E. Terrence contacted me later that month with the news that his wife had killed herself. While cleaning up the various things she'd left behind, closing her email accounts and the like, he happened upon the above message. He was a man in shambles. He wept as he told me to listen to his wife's advice. He found the disc, he revealed, and he burned it until it was nothing but a stinking pile of blackened plastic. The part that most disturbed him, however, was how the disc had hissed as it melted. Like some sort of animal, he said. I will admit that I was a little uncertain about how to respond to this. At first, I thought perhaps it was a joke, with the couple belatedly playing with the situation in order to get a rise out of me. A quick check of several Chicago newspapers' online obituaries, however, proved that Mary E. was indeed dead. There was, of course, no mention of a suicide in the article. I decided that, for a time at least, I would no further pursue the subject of Smile.jpg, especially since I had finals coming up at the end of May. But the world has odd ways of testing us. Almost a full year after I returned from my disastrous interview with Mary E., I received another email. Hello. I found your email address through a mailing list. Your profile said you're interested in Smile.Dog. I have saw it. It's not as bad as everyone says. I've sent it to you here. Just spreading the word. The final line chilled me to the bone. According to my email client, there was one file attached called, naturally, Smile.jpg. I considered downloading it for some time. It was most likely a fake, I imagine, and even if it wasn't, I was never wholly convinced of Smile.jpg's peculiar powers. Mary E.'s account had shaken me, yeah, but she was probably mentally unbalanced anyway. After all, how could a simple image do what Smile.jpg was said to accomplish? What sort of creature was it that could break someone's mind with only the power of the eye? And if things were patently absurd, then why did the legend exist at all? If I downloaded the image, if I looked at it, and if Mary turned out to be correct, if Smile.dog came to me in my dreams demanding that I spread the word, what would I do? Would I live out my life as Mary had, fighting against the urge to give in until I died, or would I simply spread the word, eager to put it to rest? And if I chose the latter route, how could I do it? Whom would I burden in turn? If I went through with my earlier intention to write a short article about this Smile.jpg, I decided I could attach it as evidence, and anyone who read the article, anyone who took interest, would be affected. And even assuming that the Smile.jpg attached to the email was genuine, would I be capricious enough to save myself in that manner? Could I spread the word? Yeah, I could. I know of an old Romanian fairy tale, highly unpopular even in its early iterations. It might have been based on a particular event, or perhaps it's an extrapolation from existing Slenderman stories, but the translation I'm most familiar with goes a bit like this. Once upon a time there were twin girls, Stella and Serena. They were brave little girls, and they had no fear of the dark, nor spiders and other crawling things. Where other young ladies and even young boys would cower, Stella and Serena would walk with their heads held high. They were good girls, obedient to their mother and father and to the word of God. They were the best children a mother could ask for. And this was their undoing. One day, Stella and Serena were out with their mother gathering berries from the forest. Their mother bid them stay close to her, and they listened. And they were good children. The day was bright and clear, and even as they walked closer to the center of the forest, the light barely dimmed. It was nearly bright as noon when they found the tall man. The tall man stood in the clearing, dressed as a nobleman, all in black. Shadows lay over him, dark as a cloudy midnight. He had many arms, all long and boneless as snakes, all sharp as swords, and they writhed like worms on nails. He didn't speak, but he made his intentions known. The mother tried to listen, but she could no more disobey the tall man than she could forget how to breathe. She walked into the clearing, her daughters shortly behind her. "Stella," she said, "take my knife and cut a circle on the ground big enough to lie in." Stella, who was not afraid of the tall man nor afraid of the quiver in her mother's voice, obeyed what her mother said. "Serena," the mother said, "take the berries and spread them in the circle and crush them underfoot until the juices stain the earth." Though Serena wondered why her mother asked her to do such a thing, she obeyed, because she was a good girl. "Stella," the mother said, "lie in the circle." Stella, though she worried she might stain her clothes, did as her mother asked. "Serena," the mother said, and bid Serena cut her sister open with the knife. Serena could not, would not. "Please," her mother said, "if you don't, it will be worse, so much worse." But Serena could not, and she threw the knife away and ran home crying. She hid under her bed, afraid for the first time in her life. She waited until her father came home from the fields and told him of the terrible thing she had found in the woods. Her father comforted her and told her that she would be safe. He went to the woods, his axe in hand, and as he commanded, she stayed by the hearth waiting for his return. After some time, she fell asleep, and when she woke, it was to the sound of knocking on her door at the darkest hour of night. "Who's there?" she said. "It is your father," the knocker said. "I don't believe you," said Serena. "It is your sister," the knocker said. "It cannot be," said Serena. "I am your mother," said the knocker. "And I told you it would be worse." The door, locked tight before her father left, fell open as if it had been left ajar, and her mother stepped in, her sister's head clutched in one bloody hand, her father's in the other. "Why?" wept Serena. "Because," said her mother, "there is no reward for goodness. There is no respite for faith. There is nothing but cold steel teeth and scrounging fire for all of us. And it's coming for you now." And the tall man slid from the fire and clenched Serena in his burning embrace. Excerpt from local newspaper. Ominous unknown killer is still at large. After weeks of unexplained murders, the ominous unknown killer is still on the rise. After little evidence has been found, a young boy states that he survived one of the killer's attacks and bravely tells his story. "I had a bad dream and I woke up in the middle of the night," says the boy. "I saw that for some reason the window was open, even though I remember it being closed before I went to bed. I got up and I shut it once more. Afterwards, I simply crawled under my covers and tried to go back to sleep. And that's when I had a strange feeling, like someone was watching me. I looked up and I nearly jumped out of my bed, because there in the ray of light, illuminating from between my curtains, were a pair of 2 eyes.
So scary.
These weren't regular eyes. They were dark, ominous eyes. They were bordered in black and just plain out terrified me.
So scary.
That's when I saw his mouth. A long, horrendous smile that made every hair on my body stand up. The figure stood there, watching me. Finally, after what seemed like forever, he said it. A simple phrase, but said in a way only a madman could speak. He said, "Go to sleep." I let out a scream, and that's what sent him after me. He pulled out a knife, aimed at my heart. He jumped on top of my bed. I fought him back. I kicked, I punched, I rolled around. I tried to knock him off me, and that's when my dad burst in. The man threw the knife. It went into my dad's shoulder. The man probably would have finished him off, if only the neighbors hadn't alerted the police. They drove into the parking lot and ran towards the door. The man turned. He ran down the hallway. I heard a smash like glass breaking. As I came out of my room, I saw the window that was pointing toward the back of my house was broken. I looked out to see him vanish into the distance. I can tell you one thing. I'll never forget that face, those cold, evil eyes, and that psychotic smile. They'll never leave my head. Police are still in search of this man. If you see anyone that fits the description in this story, please contact your local police department. Jeff and his family had just moved into a new neighborhood. His dad had gotten a promotion at work, and they thought that it would be best to live in one of those fancy neighborhoods. Jeff and his brother Lou couldn't complain, though. A new, better house, what was not to love? As they were getting unpacked, one of their neighbors came by. "Hello," she said. "I'm Barbara. I lived across the street from you. Well, I just wanted to introduce myself and introduce my son." She turned around and called her son over. "Billy, these are our new neighbors." Billy said hi, and he ran back to play in his yard. "Well," said Jeff's mom, "I'm Margaret, this is my husband Peter, and my 2 sons, Jeff and Lou." They each introduced themselves, and then Barbara invited them to her son's birthday party. Jeff and his brother were about to object when their mother said that they would love to. When Jeff and his family were done packing, Jeff went up to his mom. "Mom, why would you invite us to some kid's party? If you haven't noticed, I'm not some dumb kid." "Jeff," said his mother, "we just moved here. We should show that we want to spend time with our neighbors. Now, we're going to that party and that's final." Jeff started to talk, but stopped himself, knowing that he couldn't do anything. Whenever his mom said something, it was final. He walked up to his room and he plopped down on his bed. He sat there looking at his ceiling when suddenly he got a weird feeling. Not so much a pain, but a weird feeling. He dismissed it as some kind of random feeling. He heard his mom call him down to get his stuff, and he walked down to get it. The next day, Jeff walked down the stairs to get breakfast and got ready for school. As he sat there eating his breakfast, he once again got that feeling. This time it was stronger. It gave him a slight tugging pain, but he once again dismissed it. As he and Lou finished breakfast, they walked down to the bus stop. They sat there waiting for the bus, and then, all of a sudden, some kid on a skateboard jumped over them, only inches above their laps. They both jumped back in surprise. "Hey, what the hell?" The kid landed and turned back to them. He kicked his skateboard up and caught it with his hands. The kid seemed to be about 12, 1 year younger than Jeff. He wore an Aeropostale shirt and ripped blue jeans. Well, looks like we got some new meat." Suddenly 2 other kids appeared. One was a super skinny and the other was huge. "Well, since you're new here, I'd like to introduce ourselves. Over there is Keith." Jeff and Lou looked over to the skinny kid. He had a dopey face that you would expect a sidekick to have. And he's Troy. He looked over at the fat kid. Talk about a tub of lard. This kid looked like he hadn't exercised since he was crawling. And I, said the first kid, am Randy. Now, for all kids in this neighborhood, there is a small price of bus fare, if you catch my drift. Lou stood up, ready to punch the lights out of the kid's eyes, when one of his friends pulled a knife on him. I had hoped that you would be more cooperative, but it seems we gotta do this the hard way. Kid walked up to Lou and took out his wallet from his pocket. Jeff got that feeling again. It was truly strong, a burning sensation. He stood up, but Lou gestured him to sit down. Jeff ignored him, and he walked up to the kid. Hey, listen here, you little punk. Give back my bro's wallet or else. Randy put the wallet into his own pocket and pulled out his own knife. Oh? What are you gonna do? Just as he finished the sentence, Jeff popped the kid in the nose, and Randy reached for his face. Jeff grabbed the kid's wrist and broke it. Randy screamed, and Jeff grabbed the knife from his hand. Troy and Keith rushed Jeff, but Jeff was too quick. He threw Randy to the ground. Keith lashed out at him, but Jeff ducked and stabbed him in the arm. Keith dropped his knife and fell onto the ground screaming. Troy rushed to him, but Jeff didn't even need the knife. He punched Troy straight in the stomach, and Troy went down. And as he fell, he puked all over. Lou could do nothing but look in amazement at Jeff. Jeff, how did you... That was all he said. They saw the bus coming. They knew they'd be blamed for the whole thing, so they started running as fast as they could. As they ran, they looked back and they saw the bus driver rushing over to Randy and the others. As Jeff and Lou made it to school, they didn't dare tell what happened. All they did was sit and listen. Lou just thought of that as his big brother beating up a few kids, but Jeff knew it was more. It was something scary. As he got that feeling, he felt how powerful it was. The urge to just hurt people. He didn't like how it sounded, but he couldn't help but feel happy. He felt that strange feeling go away and stay away for the entire day of school. Even as he walked home, due to the whole thing near the bus stop and how he probably wouldn't be taking the bus anymore, he felt happy. When he got home, his parents asked him how his day was, and he said in a somewhat ominous voice, "It was wonderful." The next morning, he heard a knock at his front door. He walked down to find 2 police officers at the door, his mother looking back at him with an angry look. "Jeff? These officers tell me that you attacked 3 kids, that it wasn't just some regular fighting, that they were stabbed. Stabbed, son." Jeff's gaze fell to the floor, showing his mother that it was true. "Mom, they were the ones who pulled the knives on me and Lou." "Son," said one of the cops, "we found 3 kids, 2 stabbed, 1 having a bruise on his stomach, have witnesses proving that you fled the scene. Now, what does that tell us?" Jeff knew it was no use. He could say him and Lou had been attacked, but then there was no proof it was not them who attacked first. They couldn't say that they weren't fleeing because, truth be told, they were. So Jeff couldn't defend himself, or Lou. "Son, hold down your brother." Jeff couldn't do it, since it was him who had beaten up all those kids. "Sir, it was me. I was the one who beat up the kids. Lou tried to hold me back, he couldn't stop me." Cop looked at his partner and they both nodded. "Well, kid, looks like a year in juvie." "Wait," said Lou. They all looked up to see him holding a knife. The officers pulled their guns and locked him on Lou. "It was me. I beat up those punks. I have the marks to prove it." He lifted up his sleeve to reveal cuts and bruises, as if he was in some kind of struggle. "Son, just put down the knife," said the officer. Lou held up the knife and dropped it to the ground, put his hands up, and walked over to the cops. No, Lou, it was me. I did it." Jeff had tears running down his face. Poor bro, trying to take the blame for what I did. Well, take me away." Police led Lou out to the patrol car. "Lou, tell them it was me. Tell them I was the one who beat up those kids." Jeff's mother put her hand on his shoulders. "Jeff, please, you don't have to lie. We know it was Lou. You can stop." Jeff watched helplessly as the cop car sped off with Lou inside. A few minutes later, Jeff's dad pulled into the driveway, seeing Jeff's face, knowing something was wrong. "Son, Son, what is it? Jeff couldn't answer. His vocal cords were strained from crying. Instead, Jeff's mother walked his father inside to break the bad news to him as Jeff wept in the driveway. After an hour or so, Jeff walked back into the house, seeing that his parents were both shocked, sad, and disappointed. He couldn't look at them. He couldn't see how they thought of Lou when it was his fault. He just went to sleep, trying to get the whole thing off his mind. 2 days went by with no word from Lou at JDC, no friends to hang out with, nothing but sadness and guilt. That is until Saturday, when Jeff is woke by his mother with a happy, sunshiny face. "Jeff, it's the day," she said as she opened up the curtains and let light flood into his room. "What? What's today?" asked Jeff as he stirs awake. "Why, it's Billy's party." He was now fully awake. "Mom, you're joking, right? You don't expect me to go to some kid's party after..." There was a long pause. "Jeff, we both know what happened. I think this party could be the best thing to brighten up the past few days. Now get dressed." Jeff's mother walked out of the room and downstairs to get ready herself. He fought himself to get up. He picked out a random shirt, a pair of jeans, and walked downstairs. He saw his mother and father all dressed up. His mother in a dress, and his father in a suit. He thought why they would ever wear such fancy clothes to a kid's party. "Son, is that all you're gonna wear?" said Jeff's mom. "I'm better than wearing too much," he said. His mother pushed down the feelings to yell at him and hit it with a smile. "Now, Jeff, we may be overdressed, but this is how you go if you want to make an impression," said his father. Jeff grunted and went back up to his room. "I don't have any fancy clothes," he yelled downstairs. "Just pick something," called his mother. He looked around in his closet for what he would call fancy. He found a pair of black dress pants he had for a special occasion, and an undershirt. Couldn't find a shirt to go along with it. He looked around and found only striped and patterned shirts, none of which would go with the dress pants. Finally, he found a white hoodie, and he put that on. "You wearing that?" His mother looked at her watch. "Oh no, time to change. Let's just go," she said as she herded Jeff and his father out of the door. They crossed the street over to Barbara and Billy's house. They knocked on the door, and at it appeared Barbara, just like his parents, way overdressed. As they walked inside, all Jeff could see were adults, no kids. "Oh, the kids are out in the yard. Jeff, how about you go out and meet some of them?" said Barbara. Jeff walked outside to a yard full of kids. They were running around in weird cowboy costumes and shooting each other with plastic guns. They might as well have been standing in a Toys R Us. Suddenly, a kid came up to him and handed him a toy gun. "Hey, you want to play?" he said. No, kid. I'm way too old for this stuff." The kid looked at him, that weird puppy dog face. "Please?" said the kid. "Fine," said Jeff. He put on the hat and he started to pretend to shoot at the kids. At first he thought it was totally ridiculous, but then he started actually to have fun. It might not have been super cool, but it was the first time he had done something that took his mind off of Lou. So he played with the kids for a while until he heard a noise. A weird rolling noise. And then it hit him. Randy, Troy, and Keith all jumped over the fence on their skateboards. Jeff dropped the fake gun and ripped off the hat. Randy looked at Jeff with a burning hatred. "Hello, it's Jeff, isn't it?" he said. "We have some unfinished business." Jeff saw his bruised nose. "No, I think we're even. Beat the crap out of you. You get my brother sent to JDC. Randy got an angry look in his eyes. No, I don't go for even. I go for winning. You may have kicked our asses that day, but not today," he said. As he said that, Randy rushed at Jeff. They both fell to the ground. Randy punched Jeff in the nose, and Jeff grabbed him by the ears and headbutted him. Jeff pushed Randy off, and both rose to their feet. Kids were screaming. Parents were running out of the house. Troy and Keith both pulled guns out of their pockets. "Don't interrupt, or guts will fly," they said. Randy pulled a knife on Jeff and stabbed it into his shoulder. Jeff screamed and fell to his knees. Randy started kicking him in the face, and after 3 kicks, Jeff grabbed his foot and twisted it, causing Randy to fall to the ground. Jeff stood up and walked towards the back door. Troy grabbed him. "You need some help?" He picked Jeff up by the back of his collar and threw him through the patio door. As Jeff tries to stand, he's kicked down to the ground. Randy repeatedly starts kicking Jeff until he starts to cough up blood. "Come on, Jeff, fight me!" He picked Jeff up and threw him into the kitchen. Randy sees a bottle of vodka on the counter and smashes the glass over Jeff's head. "Fight!" He throws Jeff back into the living room. "Come on, Jeff, look at me." Jeff glanced up, his face riddled with blood. "I was the one who got your brother sent to JDC. And now you're just gonna sit here and you're gonna let him rot in there for a whole year. You should be ashamed." Jeff starts to get up. "Oh, finally, you stand and fight." Jeff is now to his feet, blood and vodka on his face, and once again, he gets that strange feeling, the one in which he hasn't felt for a while. "Finally, he's up," says Randy as he runs at Jeff, and that's when it happens. Something inside Jeff snaps, his psyche is destroyed, all rational thinking is gone. All he can do now is kill. He grabs Randy and pile drives him into the ground. He gets on top of him and punches him straight in his heart. The punch causes Randy's heart to stop, and as Randy gasps for breath, Jeff hammers down on him, punch after punch. Blood gushes from Randy's body until he takes one final breath and dies. Everyone's looking at Jeff now. The parents, crying kids, even Troy and Keith. Although they easily break from their gaze and point their guns at Jeff. Jeff sees the guns trained on him and runs for the stairs. As he runs, Troy and Keith let out fire on him, each shot missing. Jeff runs up the stairs. He hears Troy and Keith following behind. As they let out their final rounds of bullets, Jeff ducks into the bathroom. He grabs the towel rack and rips it from the wall. Troy and Keith race in, knives ready. Troy swings his knife at Jeff, who backs away and bangs the towel rack on Troy's face. Troy goes down hard, and now all that's left is Keith. He's more agile than Troy, though, and ducks when Jeff swings the towel rack. He drops the knife and grabs Jeff by the neck. He pushes him into the wall. A thing of bleach falls down on top of him from the top shelf. It burnt both of them, and they both started to scream. Jeff wiped his eyes as best as he could. He pulled back the towel rack and swung it straight into Keith's head. As he lay there, bleeding to death, he let out an ominous smile. "Yeah? What's so funny?" asked Jeff. Keith pulled out a lighter and switched it on. "What's funny," he said, "is that you're covered in bleach and alcohol." Jeff's eyes widened as Keith threw the lighter at him. And as soon as the flame made contact with him, the flames ignited the alcohol in the vodka. While the alcohol burned him, the bleach bleached his skin. Jeff let out a terrible screech as he caught on fire. He tried to roll out the fire, but it was no use. The alcohol had made him a walking inferno. He ran down the hall and fell down the stairs. Everybody started screaming as they saw Jeff, now a man on fire, drop to the ground, nearly dead. The last thing that Jeff saw was his mother and the other parents trying to extinguish the flame. And that's when he passed out. When Jeff woke up, he had a cast wrapped around his face. He couldn't see anything, but he felt a cast on his shoulder, stitches all over his body. He tried to stand up, but he realized there was some tube in his arm, and when he tried to get up, it fell out, and a nurse rushed in. I don't think you can get out of bed just yet," she said, as she put him back in his bed and reinserted the tube. Jeff sat there, no vision, no idea of what was surrounding him. Finally, after hours, he heard his mother. "Honey, are you okay?" she asked. Jeff couldn't answer, though. His face was covered. He was unable to speak. "Oh, honey, I have great news. After all the witnesses told the police that Randy had confessed of trying to attack you, they decided to let Lou go." This made Jeff almost bolt up, stopping halfway, remembering the tube coming out of his arm. "He'll be out by tomorrow, and then you two will be able to be together again." Jeff's mother hugged Jeff and says her goodbyes. The next couple of weeks were those where Jeff was visited by his family. And then came the day where his bandages were to be removed. His family were all there to see it, what he would look like. As the doctor unwrapped the bandages from Jeff's face, everyone was on the edge of their seats. They waited until the last bandage, holding the cover over his face, was almost removed. Well, let's hope for the best, said the doctor. He quickly pulled the cloth, letting the rest fall from Jeff's face. Jeff's mother screamed at the sight of his face. Lou and Jeff's dad stare awestruck. What? What happened to my face? Jeff said. He rushed out of bed and ran to the bathroom. He looked in the mirror and saw the cause of the distress. His face. It was horrible. His lips were burnt to a deep shade of red. His face was turned into a pale white color, and his hair singed from brown to black. He slowly put his hand to his face. It had a sort of leathery feel to it now. He looked back at his family, and then back at the mirror. Jeff, said Lou, it's not that bad. Not that bad, said Jeff. It's perfect! His family were equally surprised. Jeff started laughing uncontrollably. His parents noticed that his left eye and hand were twitching. Jeff, are you okay? Okay! I've never felt more happy! Look at me! This face goes perfectly with me! He couldn't stop laughing. He stroked his face, feeling it, looking at it in the mirror. What caused this? Well, you may recall that when Jeff was fighting Randy, something in his mind, his sanity snapped. Now he was left as a crazy killing machine. That is, his parents didn't know. Doctor? Said Jeff's mom. Is my son all right, in the head? Oh, yes. This behavior is typical for patients that have been taking a large amount of painkillers. If his behavior doesn't change in a few weeks, bring him back here, and we'll give him a psychological test. Oh, thank God. Thank you, doctor. Jeff's mother went over to Jeff. Jeff, sweetie, it's time to go. Jeff looks away from the mirror, his face still formed into a crazed smile. Okay, Mom. His mother took him by the shoulder and took him to get his clothes. This is what came in, said the lady at the desk. Jeff's mom looked down to see the black dress pants and white hoodie her son wore. Now they were clean of blood and now stitched together. Jeff's mother led him to his room and made him put on his clothes. And then they left, not knowing that this was their final day of life. Later that night, Jeff's mother woke to a sound coming from the bathroom. It sounded as if someone was crying. She slowly walked over to see what it was. When she looked into the bathroom, she saw a horrendous sight. Jeff had taken a knife and carved a smile into his cheeks. Jeff, what are you doing? Asked his mother. Jeff looked over to his mom. I couldn't keep smiling, Mom. It hurt after a while, but now I can smile forever. Jeff's mother noticed his eyes, ringed in black. Jeff, your eyes! His eyes seemingly never closed. I couldn't see my face. I got tired, and my eyes started to close. I burned out the eyelids so I could forever see myself, my new face. Jeff's mother slowly started to back away, seeing that her son was going insane. What's wrong, Mom? Aren't I beautiful? Aww. Yes, son, she said. Yes, you are. Let me go get your dad, so we can see your face. She ran into the room and shook Jeff's dad from his sleep. Honey, get the gun, She stopped. She saw Jeff in the doorway, holding a knife. Mom, you lied. That's the last thing they heard, as Jeff rushed them with a knife, gutting both of them. His brother Lou woke up, startled by some noise. He didn't hear anything else, so he just shut his eyes, tried to go back to sleep. As he was on the border of slumber, he had the strangest feeling that someone was watching him. He looked up, before Jeff's hand covered his mouth. He slowly raised the knife, ready to plunge it into Lou. Lou thrashed here and there. There was no escaping Jeff's grip. Shh, Jeff said. Just go
to sleep.
Hey there, everyone who's listening on YouTube, or those of you who are listening on the podcast. It's me, MrCreepyPasta, and before you head out for the night, I just wanted to let you know about a couple of things. Without you, the show doesn't take place. So, if you guys would like to support the show, or if you guys would like to get your hands on a couple of cool little things whenever new things come out, check out patreon.com/MrCreepyPasta, and any support that you guys show, I really appreciate. For everyone who's already donated to the Patreon, I really appreciate it. You guys are amazing. Thank you so much for that. If you guys are looking for more Creepypasta Storytime, there's a new video that's uploaded to this channel or uploaded to the podcast every Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, and Sunday now. You can be able to get more from me at facebook.com/MrCreepyPasta or on Twitter at MrCreepyPasta and then the number 0. Thanks so much for listening, kids, and for your support. And sweet dreams.